It would be really nice if you could switch on your videos. I know you may not be in the most appropriate space, but if you can, Sumala would definitely be happy. So if you are around and you can switch on your video, that'll be super. It's lovely to see participants and interact with them while we are doing our workshop, if Sumala agrees with me.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, a quick note, thank you so much for registering in today. And a little bit about Adhyayan. Adhyayan is a movement that we started way back in 2017, 2000, in fact, before that, 2011, where a group of educators got together with a single vision that we want a good school for every child. And since then, we have been working with schools across India and a few countries abroad too. So, welcome to our COP sessions. Our COP sessions are community of practice sessions where we have educators who would like to share their beliefs, their practices, their vision, along with the larger audience and larger group of educators. This is something that Adhyayan started during COVID to support educators with technology practices, with professional development. So lovely to have our host for today, Sumala. Sumala, thank you so much, facilitator for today. So Sumala, thank you so much. Quick introduction about Sumala. She has over 20 years of experience, out of which 13 years have been in the field of education. She's a math educator with exposure to national and international curriculum. She has an MBA degree, MEd and UGC NET certifications. She has led the teaching and learning section section at Shiv Nadar in Gurgaon, where she's now working for 9 years. She is also a consultant trainer at GD Goenka Public School, Siliguri. Her professional expertise comprises of coaching and mentoring and teacher training in pedagogical practices. Her passion lies in bringing meaning to math, learning by using real-life context, stories, and experiential learning, thus addressing the common misconceptions that students face in mathematics. I know mathematics can be a really, really scary subject, Sumala. Great subject for me, but not all great mathematicians are great teachers. So it's hard to be a good math teacher. You may be amazing at mathematics, but you may never be a great math teacher always. And sometimes great math teachers are not great mathematicians either. So thank you so much. Apart from conducting training sessions, Sumala has mentored and coached teachers following a coaching cycle based on mutual respect and trust. She's undergone a number of trainings on pedagogical practices, including the Cambridge PDQ CICTL, and she's currently pursuing her postgraduate diploma in educational assessment from Azim Premji University. Amazing, Sumala. I don't think age ever has a number to learn. She owes her exposure to the virtue of being an army wife, because of which she travels the length and the breadth of our country. She has a son who is in college and a little furry baby named Messi. Could we see the furry baby on screen? Sumala, is
Oh,
possible to
he
meet Messi?
just passed by and he's
Okay.
just gone out.
Super. So lovely, Sumala. Thank you for facilitating today's session, and over to you.
Thank you so
For
much. Yeah, so I'll just dive straight into it, and I hope everyone is able to use the chat box, because that is where I would just be able to see if people are there and people are replying to whatever questions that there are. Because otherwise, being in the online forum, it becomes very, very difficult to have people, and probably are just speaking to a blank screen. So just a very, very few short words or phrases as to when you think of mathematics, when you think of um, the struggles that your children have, and let's focus on children who are from the age group of grades 5 to 8, maybe. Today we are focusing on middle school. And if we focus on that age group, what are a few struggles that you face? let me just have a look at the chat box and see if I get just a few struggles that you face in the classrooms. I see a student of mine as well here, one whom I've taught for a few years in Shiv, now the school. She's joined here too. So if you ever think of mathematics and students, okay, handwriting, fear of math, okay, to the practitioners, when we think about, okay, understanding the concept of probability, yes, word problems, comprehension, okay, struggle to explain math concepts, fractions, absolutely. And when we think of fractions or things like integers, we see a lot of errors, common misconceptions that come in. Negative numbers, okay. So if we talk about integers per se, very, very common misunderstanding. Or probably if you just go into grade 6 where integers is getting introduced, what is it that you get from students, or what is a common problem that you face? When anyone can unmute and speak as well, huh? So everyone is free to unmute and speak. So, okay, small and silly mistakes, use of sign, okay. What does this, how do we introduce integers? If we focus of integers, how do we use integers then? Conceptualizing, okay, negative numbers, because when we talk of numbers, numbers mean quantity, fraction means again some quantity, and then we find that the struggle is there when they are dealing with fractions, when they are dealing with negative numbers, when they are dealing with decimals, because the concept of quantity is really not there. Okay, so let's just have a look at one of the ways of moving into integers. Okay, visualizing negative numbers. Yes, lack of real world concept. Very good. So let's look at how we can use the real world concepts. If you really, or if you haven't, do go through NCFSE 2023, and we see that how the aims of education are tied up into the aims of mathematics education, and how the curricular goals and the competencies are then woven into by contextualizing, how the real world problems help in understanding. So how we as math teachers, we expect a lot of procedural fluency. However, we fail to do so, achieve so, because the conceptual understanding is a problem. So we are quickly going into one of the ways of introducing integers, and I would first of all give the credit first to Jorogyan for using the kind of methodologies that they have used. So I've taken a lot from the training I've had with them. I would also give credit for creativity to one of my colleagues in Shiv, the school, who during the COVID period has gone ahead and helped me create the PPT. So I'll allow me to share my screen, and let me know if you are able to see the screen.
Yes, Sumala, it's visible.
Okay, so let's use story time. And before we begin, let's have the learning objective for today. So you will be able to establish conceptual clarity before procedural fluency, as I was talking about, and the success criteria here being, you should be able to use a context to grab interest, exploit that interest to expand on the concept. You should then be able to steer students towards generalizing the understanding, and finally referring back to the hook from time to time as and when the students struggle. So it would really be great that as we proceed into it, we have answers from you. So let's begin with a hook that you have, meet the characters of the story. These are the two characters. This young boy, his name is Baiju. He's a college student who has just finished with his exams and he's awaiting his results. And this is Baiju's father, who is a kabadiwala, and he is the only earning member of the family. What happens that one day Baiju's father fell ill and he was advised by the doctor to be on bed rest for a long time. And if it is even for 3 months, this family was going to face a lot of financial hardship. So Baiju was really, really worried, and he was thinking as to what would happen because his father was the only earning member. And how will the family now manage? So he thought of an idea, because his mother was also not agreeing to it, that he shouldn't leave his studies. So he thought that, okay, I can continue with my studies. During the evening, I can probably use the same cart and sell some vegetables. So he would help his mother financially. For this, he planned to start a fresh vegetable thela, and he spoke to his uncle, who used to run a samosa wala thela. So his mother, who was not agreeing, she finally agreed that, okay, just to be on time and to not overburden ourselves, you will sell vegetables worth 200 rupees every day. So because for selling vegetables, you have to go to the mandi and get vegetables. And in the mandi, you cannot buy a very, non 10 rupees ka, 15 rupees ka, all those kind of things do not happen. And this was in village. So she said that, okay, you will buy vegetables worth 200 rupees a day. And whenever you have saved enough, and that enough is whenever you have saved 100 rupees, that is the time you give that money to me. Till then, you can keep it in your gullak. So this is how his vegetable thela looked. And on the first day, he bought vegetables worth 200 rupees, and he sold them for 230 rupees. So what do you think? How much did she put in his gullak? Because how much did he put in his gullak? Let me have a few answers here. Will he put 230 rupees in his gullak, or will he put 30 rupees in the gullak? Anyone can unmute and talk here. Okay. Okay. So 30, because 200 rupees he has to use to buy vegetables again from the market, right? So he has put 30 rupees in his gullak. So this 30 rupees we will now refer to as the net wealth position, right? So net wealth position is 30 rupees as of now. And he takes the 200 rupees and he buys vegetable again for the next day. So if he has to mark his earning for the first day on this Ganit Mala, now this Ganit Mala, this has just been for reference divided into red and white beads. Each part is referring to 10 beads. So this is a 100 bead Ganit Mala. So where is he going to mark his first day? That is the net wealth position. This net wealth position is as 30. And so the position is now here. So he marked it here. So he placed this Ganit Mala kind of a thing, a bead kind of a mala, so that he has, or he drew it on his board. And in a classroom, when in a live classroom, we can use these Ganit Malas to show to the children as to where the net wealth position is. So we can use the clips. So in the physical classroom, we have these big Ganit Malas. This, if you are using it online, you can use it this way. So this is where he put his Ganit Mala for the first day earning. So on the second day, he sold his vegetables for 210 rupees. So how much will now go into his box, and what will be the total net wealth position? The total net wealth position was at 30. It will now shift. Yes, good. Thank you, Ritu ma'am. This is now going to shift to 40. And so, yes, Indra ma'am, this is going to shift at 40. And so this is where the clip will now be at. If you are using a Ganit Mala in the classroom, if you're using a net wealth position through a PPT, you can show it this way. So this is the net wealth position at 40. Now let's see what happens. When on the following day, Baju was selling vegetables. He went inside to drink water. And during that time, a cow came and ate some of the vegetables, and so he could only sell vegetables of 170 rupees. What will he now do? You can talk, you can think aloud, you can put it in the chat. He cannot buy vegetables of 170 rupees. He has sold for 170 rupees. What will he now do to buy vegetables for the next day? Okay, take 30 back from his savings. Nice. So he will pull out 30 rupees from his gulak. So where will his net wealth position be now? His net wealth position has now come to, yes, 10. So 10 is where his net wealth position is. So we can see that on first day, his net wealth position was at 30. It went up to 40. Then it has come down to 10. However, on the next day, he has been able to sell vegetables worth 230 rupees. And now again, his net wealth position has gone up to 40. Great. So now if the net wealth position has gone up to 40, we can see this has now come back here. However, we all experience this. And for people who are on daily wages, a lot can happen if the weather is unpredictable. So not many people came out from their homes to buy vegetables. And on the next day, he sold vegetables of only 160 rupees. For the next day, he needs 200 rupees. Where will he get that from? And what will be his net wealth position? It was 40. It came down to 10. It has gone up to 40. And now, yes, back again to 0. So his net wealth position has come down to 0, which is now shown as 0. So this is where he is now. So let's see what happens. Rain kept continuing for the next day, and the sale was now for 160 rupees. He doesn't have any cash. He still needs some money to buy vegetables from the market. What do you think he would now do? Think what he would now do. Think of the story. Okay, borrow. Borrow from whom? One of the options. But see, mother doesn't have much money. You remember the samosa wala thela uncle? So he is now going to borrow some money from him because, yes, purchase on credit, that also is definitely there. So all these options are there. So how much credit now he has? How much, the loan position now he has is 40 rupees is what he has to buy. So let's look at the net wealth position. Will he be able to use this Ganit Mala to represent his wealth position? This is just a 100 bead Ganit Mala. And this is where in the classroom, we can use the integer Ganit Mala. And the integer Ganit Mala is something which would look like this, where you can say that the negative numbers are represented by white and gray, and the positive numbers, that is cash, the negative position and the positive position, so to say. The positive position is red and white, and the negative position is white and gray. So he has now a loan of 40, and this is where the net wealth position is. So let's look at what happens next. Next day, Baju buys vegetables for 200 rupees, and he could sell only for 140 rupees. So to do normal business, again, he will be able to buy only if he again borrow, right? Either he buys on credit or he borrows from uncle. He is borrowing from his uncle this time. How much will the loan amount now be? He had borrowed 40. His loan is at 40. He again has to borrow some. How much will be the loan amount now in all? The net wealth position. Yes. The net wealth position. So here is where we bring our concept that, okay, he had taken a loan of 40. We can now, it should be the Ganitmala for some more time before we introduce this number line. However, just to show quantification on a number line, this is how an integer number line would look like. He was at a loan of 40. He again takes a loan of 60. So his net wealth position has moved to a loan of 100. So what happens is that he is now really sad and worried, and he is worrying as to how he would repay and help his mother. Ek to he said that he has to help his mother financially, but now he has worsened the situation by adding on to more of hardships. He owes 100 rupees now as loan amount to his uncle. So the next day, Baiju again goes to sell vegetables worth 200 rupees. And this time he is able to sell them for 250 rupees. And if he is selling for 250 rupees, what do you think he will now do? What do you think he will now do? Yes, 100 rupees is the loan. Now he has sold for 250 rupees. He has 50 rupees to spare because he will buy 200 rupees worth vegetables next day. What will he now do with the 50 rupees that he has spare with him? Okay. Okay. He pays back his loan. Okay. So if he pays back his loan, he pays back 50. How much does he have to pay back? How much more does he have to pay? Yeah. Okay. He returns 40. Okay. Let's see what if he returns 50. He returns 50. How much more does he have to return? He had a net wealth or a net loan amount of 100 rupees. He's returned 50. He still has 50 rupees to return. So let's look at the net wealth position, how it has gone up to it. And this is where you are going to tell your students that see how the movement has been from a positive situation to a negative situation. That in the first day, there was a positive cash of 30, then of 40. The third day, he had a cash of 10. Thereafter, he had cash of 40 rupees again. On the fifth day, he had no cash in his gulak. He went down to borrowing 40 rupees. So it is not a very positive situation. And we call loan as a negative situation. On the seventh day, his loan amount has moved down from 40 to 100 rupees. However, if you compare the 8th day and the 7th day, the positions are still negative. However, comparatively on 8th day, the loan amount is a lesser amount of 40 rupees, 50 rupees, which is comparatively lesser than the previous day. So now let's see. The next day, Baiju again goes to sell vegetables. And this time he is selling of 260 rupees. So do you think this position is going to be a positive position, negative position, or a neutral position? These are the questions you would be asking in the class with a lot of, okay, positive, okay, because he has crossed over from 0 to 10. Yes, so his position will now be 10. So things are improving. So on the 9th day, he has a positive wealth position of 10. The next day, he again goes to buy vegetables. His position seems to be increasing. He has a profit of 40 rupees. He already had 10 in his gulak. Now he will have 50 in his gulak. And this is the position that we have. Okay, this is amazing to get a lot of, yes, thank you so much, Rashmi. And next day, Baiju goes to sell vegetables were 200 rupees, and this time he is able to sell them for 250 rupees. What do you think has now happened? How much money will be in his good luck now? Great. So if he has 100 rupees in his good luck, we now go back to the story that the promise made to his mother was that he will give his money 100 rupees when he has saved enough. So he now has saved 100. So he is now going to give 100 rupees to her. So now this is just a hook that has been created. And this hook has to be extended for a few more days so that children don't do that common mistake that minus minus plus hota hai. Now, minus minus is not plus as long as it is getting added. It is not a multiplication that is happening right now. We are adding loan to loan and we are getting a more loan, just the magnitude is increasing. So we use the number line, we use the Ganit Mala to show how the positive and the negative real life contexts make impact. And then you can talk about positive emotions and negative emotions. So if you talk about happiness and sadness, which is positive, which is negative. If you talk about cash and loan, if you talk about profit and loss, and these are the real life contexts that we are dealing with. Next, what happens is if you can design a lot of games as well with this. So using the Ganit Mala, you may then say that, okay, you may, there are dice that comes with this Ganit Mala. There are the dice which has the positive and negative numbers written on it. And there is another dice which has just positive, plus and minus written on it. So if you have to move from one number to another, or probably you have to add from, for example, if I tell two teams that, okay, let's see which team first reaches negative 80. So they can just roll the dice. And for example, I get a positive 20 and I roll the other dice and I get a plus. From my position, if I get a positive 20 and I have to add positive 20, it is to the right that I move or to the left that I move. That is a decision that we leave to the children. So if I'm at a negative position and if I have to add a positive number, how does the movement happens? And if I'm at a positive position and if I have to add a negative number, where is the position that is happening before we actually ask them to do those additions and multiplications or addition and subtractions in the notebooks. So these are games and contexts that we have to use. The number line has to be used before we actually get them to add or subtract positive or negative numbers. So this is something that we, one of the ways of, creating a hook and then moving on to procedural fluency. This is just a hook. However, when you use the story, it should take about 2 to 3 days before you move on to the, even you attempt to go on to the generalization part of it. So any thoughts before we move on to anything beyond this? Jayashree ma'am, do we have time for the other next thing? Maybe we are at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, we have exactly half an hour left, Sumala.
Half an hour.
We're doing well on
Okay.
time.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see if there is anything in the chat box. Okay. Great. Thank you so much. And let's move on to something. I go back to the same. Okay. So while we think and wonder, one of the major misconceptions that occur, and we'll go into the root cause of it. However, many of you are here who are teaching middle school. There are some of you who might be teaching the primary grades, and many of you who might have had children who have done grade 10, grade 12, and so on. So if you are familiar with the kind of problems that we have. There are issues with BODMAS. There are a lot of issues dealing with opening of brackets, which usually come into play because of wrong usage of distributive property. Right, and distributive property is one such area where I've seen even students of grade 12 struggling. And the root cause actually is when we use 2 by 2 multiplication, which, gets introduced as early as grade 2 at times, or grade 3 at times. In our school in Shiv, the school, we used to introduce it in grade 4. So just anyone, if you would want to share, what is the way that you use to introduce a 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication? I'll just wait for 10 seconds if someone wants to share anything. Okay, break apart. Okay, okay. Grid method, okay. Very good. Area model. Okay. So let's look at these. And at times, if we are using these are very good ways of showing them the procedure. However, if we are just again contextualizing all of this, there is, a lot of stories can be used. We can use in one of the workshops recently, I've used the
Good
story
evening,
that
ma'am.
we.
Myself Nandini, and I used to tell them, if you are entering in your house, for example, 2 children are there. If any relative is going there in your house, and if 2 children are there, so generally they give whatever he is giving, chocolate or anything. So he will give both children.
Absolutely.
I used to tell them generally.
Absolutely. That's an amazing thing to do, and a very similar, story we had used. We used to use. It was a story of teacher distributing notebooks, and the notebooks. If there are 36 notebooks to be distributed among 24 children, he is first distributing notebooks, 30 notebooks to 20 children, and 30 notebooks to 4 children, then 6 notebooks to the 20 children, and 6 notebooks to the 4 remaining children. However, the common misunderstanding or the misconception that comes, and the common mistake that happens when they open up these kind of numbers is 30 getting multiplied to 20 and 6 getting multiplied to 4. And they leave out giving 30 notebooks to the 20 children, 4 children, and 6 notebooks to the 20 children. So this is a very, very good thing that you just told, Nandini ma'am, that he has to give to both. Everyone has to get 30 and the 6 notebooks, or both the chocolates. So something similar. And this can be used in a lot of contexts, and how calculations can also be made easy. It can not only help you in additions, it can also help you by breaking it down into subtraction. So I will take one of these numbers at the end. However, let's just look at one of the ways of doing it. So, Prakash sir is one of my mentors who used to use one such story, which we've then animated. So this is a story of 2 farmers in southern part of India, way back, years and years back, because that was the time when people used to get, the wealthy farmers used to pay, the landlords used to pay in gold coins. So there are 2 farmers, the names are Madhav and Muthu, and they work on the farm of a wealthy man named Ranganathan. So Madhav, the more experienced of the 2, has been working on Ranganathan's farm for 8 years, while Muthu just joined a year ago. So this is how Ranganathan looks like. Madhav, this is the experienced worker, and Muthu is the new worker. And you see that Muthu is getting paid 2 coins per day for his work, while Madhav is going to get paid 4 coins per day for his work, because he is a very experienced worker. Now let's look at it. After 5 days, Ranganathan realizes that he wants to know how much he has paid Madhav and Muthu individually and also in total in a week. So he decides to maintain a diary. It would really be good if you have some paper and pen in your hands, and you can use the chat box, or just as Nandini ma'am spoke, you can just speak up as well whenever a question comes here. Now see how the diary looks like. So Madhav writes that, okay, Madhav, Rangnathan is maintaining this diary, and to Madhav, he has to give in 5 days, 4 coins each. So he writes it as 5 days into 4 coins. For Muthu, he writes 5 days into 2 coins. And so he also wants to see that, okay, how much am I spending? So, okay, I'm giving 5 days. And in the bracket, I'm writing 4 coins to Madhav and 2 coins to Muthu. However, I'm giving 6 coins every day for 5 days. And so let's see, Madhav gets 20 coins. Muthu gets 10 coins. Am I actually spending the total of 20 and 10? Yes, 5 and 6 are the same. 5 times 6 is the same as 30. And similarly, see how. So I'm not going to explain anything to the children right now, but we are just giving this, we are just writing it down in coins and days, and we are going to let them generalize this. That, okay, let's see what happens now. So for the children, this is the learning objective for the children, the outcome for the children, that now you should be able to recall the story of Ranganathan's farm and identify the number of days and coins. Okay, so you see that here is Ranganathan, who is paying to Madhav and Muthu. And what has now happened is the salaries have changed, because you are now going to just use the hook. The story is now the hook. And now the numbers, so the number of days will change or the number of coins will change. However, you would have to go back to the story and use the concept of maintaining the diary. So if now Madhav is getting paid 5 coins per day and Muthu is getting paid 3 coins per day, what is happening is, this was what was happening in the beginning. However, what is now going to happen? Could you quickly put a couple of you in the chat box? How much will Madhav, don't give me the answer, just give me dash times dash. For Madhav, how much will Muthu get and how much will Rangnathan represent? I'm following the chat. I'm expecting dash days times dash coins for Madhav and dash days for dash coins for Muthu. Great. 5 days times 5 coins for Madhav and 5 days and 3 coins for Muthu. And how much will Ranganathan be spending? Okay. And so if I use the same to add up in the bracket, okay, great, great. Yes, yes. So it is 5 times in the bracket, 5 plus 1 is what I am trying to look at. So instead of getting into the, actual answer, let's think like children, because we are trying to drive in the understanding of the concept, the use of the property, instead of getting into the answer immediately. Right? So it is 5 times 5 plus 5 times 3, and how before that it would be looking at in the, yeah, absolutely. Great. So then came time for the harvest and work increased. And what was expected is that Madhav and Muthu will now be required to work for the whole week. So instead of 5 days, they will now be, so I'm now changing the number of days. The number of coins or the per day remain the same. So Madhav gets 5 coins a day, Muthu gets 3 coins a day. I have the option of using a PEDX slide here where you can write there. However, I thought that the chat box would be better. So yes, very Priyanka ma'am, 7 times 5 for Madhav, 7 times 3 for Muthu. How much would in terms of bracket, yes, absolutely. 7 times 5 plus 2 to Ranganathan. And then when we ask the students to compare, both the sides, if the sum is coming out to be the same, right? Okay. Is it going to be 49? We can check. Okay. Right. So it will be 56, and we can check whether 7 times 5, which is 35, and 21 comes to be 49 or 56. And these are areas of, asking our children to compare that, okay, let's see whatever Madhav is getting and Muthu is getting in 7 days, is it really adding up to the account that Ranganathan is maintaining? So these are just about the ways. Now we are going to, slowly, we are going to wean off from all the story. However, still ask you to identify the number of days and identify the number of coins received by Madhav and Muthu. And now I am slowly, going to, if you all are students, I'm going to drive you towards procedural fluency. And let's see how it looks like, right? So this is what we just did. Now, one thing I'm just going to read out, whatever is in red is the number of days. Whatever is in green is the number of coins. Okay. So I'm reading this out to you. So 5 days times 5 coins to Madhav plus 5 days times 3 coins to Muthu is the same as 5 days into 5 plus 3 that Ranganathan is spending each day, which is 5 times 8, right? Then I move on, and now I am slowly removing and bringing in, you have to fill in the blanks, okay? So 7 times 5 is 7 days into 5 coins, plus 7 days into 3 coins. So what is it that is going to come here is what you are going to ask your children to. So you can, in your classrooms, use mini whiteboards, or you can ask them to write in sheets of paper, and you can ask them to hold up their answers so that you can see whether each one is answering. So quickly, let me see. Let the chat box be the mini whiteboard. I want the answer to the first fill in the blank. The first one. Very good. Okay, amazing. I've got 3 answers. Okay, amazing. Great. And let me look at the next one. I want answers to the 2 blanks in the last. Yes, thank you, Chitra ma'am. Okay, think, Priyanka ma'am, would it just be 8 or would it be dashed? Yes. Thanks, Rashmi ma'am. Thanks, Bindi ma'am. So 7 times 8. Amazing. You are getting the whole of it. And this is exactly how it is going to work for your students, and see how it happens for the next one. So it's 8 times 11 plus 8 times 9, and 8 is the number of days. 11 and 9 are the number of coins. So what will you now fill in these 2 blanks? Yes, very good. 11 and 9. Okay, let me, now it is 8 times. Yes. 11 plus 9 is? Great. So it's 20. So, okay. Now look at it. 8 times 23 plus 8 times 7. And what is it that we are now getting? We have the whole thing in blank. What is it that you would now put? This is, I'm introducing as a student to the, as a teacher to the students in a very scaffolded manner. Okay. Can we get it in steps? Yes. 8 times 23 plus 7. Amazing. What would be the next step? 8 times 23 plus 7. Very good. 8 times 30. Now we see the kind of numbers that we are choosing, right? The numbers are actually the numbers we have to use. So 23 and 7, it's a number fact of 30. multiplying a number with 30 is easier than multiplying any number with 23 and then with 7, so on and so forth. And similarly, we will now use numbers for those things. So what exactly are we doing? And here is what and when you ask your students to explain these steps. See, right now, you as a teacher, you have just shown a number of examples, you've given them the stories, and you have done a lot. Let me just go back to this. Okay. So see, as a teacher, I have not really explained anything. I have shown you a lot of examples, and I've given you ample opportunity to now arrive at your generalization. This is where you again refrain from explaining anything, and you give your students the opportunity to explain as to what is happening. A number of explanations will come. A lot will come in terms of stories, in terms of, oral explanation, in terms of mathematical explanation as to exactly what the last chat here is here. So, a lot of things will now come in, which will tell you whether your students, it's a kind of assessment for learning on the go, which is happening, where you are seeing whether your students are really getting it or not, right? So these steps are now getting explained. So if I have to now explain, can you tell me, if you think about the employer here is Ranganathan. So you ask them how many employees, and you expect an answer that there is one employer. And now if you give this, how many number of days are we talking about? How many number of days are we talking about in this example? Amazing, it's 18.
18.
Yes, thank you so much. How much is Nadar getting? How much is Madhav getting? Very good. And how much is Muthu getting? Muthu is just getting 2 coins. Okay. Let's
2
see how
points.
much. Yes, very good. And let's see how many days. It's 18 days. And we see that this is the days. And that is what you have seen or identified as in common. So eventually, after when your children have explained everything, you are just summarizing it for you. Or if you have some child who can summarize it, you can just let that child to summarize in this way. So, graphically or visually, I'm now summarizing it that 18 is what you've got in common as the number of days. And Rangnathan now is looking at the points that he's spending for Madhav and Muthu, because that's the hook that you are using. And so you have 8 and 2. And this is what you are getting. Now have a look at it. If you have to multiply 18 times 8 and 18 times 2, some of your children will find it difficult, some may not. However, when we graduate to numbers like this, look at 334 times 90 plus 334 times 10. It is still easy, but what could be easier? What could be easier? Multiplying 334 by, yes, absolutely, by clubbing 90 and 10 and making it 100, and you are then multiplying it by 100. So this is how we are going to use. So again, we revisit the success criteria and the learning outcomes, that now you should be able to state the use of brackets. And this is for students, it's a student specific outcomes. So you should be able to take the number of days in common. You should be able to add the number of coins in brackets. Do check on accuracy and see if you are using the proper steps, because now you are gradually, driving them towards procedural fluency. And this is where the steps are now going to be common. So I'm also increasing the level of the questions. From now, I can, because now the real life context will slowly recede. However, it's going to just leave it there in my mind. The number of days being 32, I've increased the number of employees here. And now your students should be able to see that 32 is in common, and 7 plus 2 plus 1 is going to be 10. So 320. So instead of, without using this, if you are giving to your students will be, they will start multiplying 32 times 7, then 32 times 2, and 32 times 1, and then they will do all the addition. Definitely for a 1-minute thing, they would spend 5 minutes. So time management goes for a 6, mathematical thinking goes for a 6. And then you give them this exercise. And the kind of exercises, you just look at the numbers, how 8 and 2 is adding up to 10, how 17 and 3 is adding up to 20, how 72 and 28, it's nothing but a number fact of 100. And you see it's getting multiplied by 304. 653, I'm gradually increasing the numbers. And if I have to do this multiplication and this 3 by 3 multiplication, then I add it. Definitely the complexity and then the kind of errors. Let me see if my students are able to add it up and see how things then generally simplify for them. And similarly, what will you do? What will you do if I ask you to multiply 5 by 99? This is something not there in that example, but I'm telling you to multiply 5 by 99. What is it that you would now do?
So simply we can do, ma'am, 5 into 100 minus 1 in the bracket. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it works both ways. See, it works both ways for addition and subtraction. So you are just going to do 99 minus 1. So instead of multiplying 5 times 99, you do 5 times 100, which is 500 minus 1. So you multiply 5 times 1. So 500 minus 1, 495. It is so mental and so easy. So it just, it's very important to give them these numbers and get the aha from them, because they have to, draw that wonder out of the mathematical situations. So I'm going to quickly, we have just 9 minutes left. So I've completed the following pattern and fill in the blanks. And I'm sure you have now got the crux of it, where you are just, weaning them off you started with the hook and you've just increased the complexity of numbers, but you are helping the students because you've given them enough armor to contextualize for these numbers till part D. So if now you have to end the last exit slip can be this, which any of you can attempt to answer in the chat box. And this is one high level question just to say, from the recall level of Bloom's taxonomy, you have gone on to understanding and then to application by giving them all these questions. Let me see if you are able to synthesize and create your own examples by giving an example to display your understanding of distributive property. All of you should be able to give numerical examples, while there might be some of you who can weave it into a word problem to exhibit that kind of application. This can just be one of your assessment questions, where you've not given a question, but you are just, yeah, tell me. Go ahead. Was someone wanting to answer? Let's see now. Yeah. Okay. Try to create an example, a small example. It could be a numerical example for distributive property. You've seen many of them. It could be a word problem that you would want to come at. Okay. Teacher has to give 500 pens to 32 boys and 18 girls. Okay. Okay, this is interesting. 5 students, 5 candies each, 2 toffees each. Okay. So all 5 of them should get 5 candies as well as 2 toffees. This is amazing. Okay, so we've got a crux of it. Let us look at this one last thing. And it just gives me a little bit of feedback. Right, so for integers as well as distributive property, we've done nothing, but we've tried to see how real life context and using a hook helps us to, establish some kind of conceptual clarity. So in this lesson, which has been a hurried one for sure, has given you some glimpse of how stories can work our ways in math classes. So if something that has gone well in this lesson, something that in any way how you could use this strategy in any of your lessons, and a very humble feedback that I can take away for the lesson that I've just conducted. Anything, you can just unmute yourself, you can talk, you can share in the chat. Yes, Rakshita ma'am has said distribute 1,000 toffees in your class of 20 girls and 30 boys. Actually, we have to think about it. This as well as 500 pence to 32. Is it really going to tell us about distributed property in a real life manner? Would you give 1,000 toffees to 20 girls and 1,000 toffees to 30 boys each? Or do you want to give a total of distribute 1,000 toffees among 20 and 30 boys? In that case, it gets converted into a division question. So we still really have to think about the problem. The problem here with 5 students totally, everyone getting 5 candies and 2 toffees each is the question which really fits into our real life context. But definitely we do not give 500 pence to 32 boys and 500 pence to 18 girls. We have to look at the, the logical part as well. Okay, it is interactive.
We can use single digit here,
Yeah.
to 500 pence. We can use 5 pence and distribute.
Yes, absolutely. You have to give 5 pence to 32 boys and 18 girls. So
Each.
definitely, yes,
Yeah.
5 to each. So
5 to each, or maybe 2 pence.
Yeah, 2 pence, 5 pence also is fine. Books are fine. Definitely, that can definitely be done. Okay. Studying 3 hours daily for 3 days in a week, 3 hours for remaining 4 days. So total study time in a week. Very good. And see, these kind of word problems, when you use total, which is a multiplication problem, and if students are given keywords like total means addition, they'll end up adding and they'll never figure out if that it is actually a multiplication problem. It's a very, very good problem. Thank you, Ghazala. Okay, so this is the end of my lesson here. I threw this platform open to any one of you to share whatever you want to share.
Please be free to ask Sumala questions. If you have any concepts that you want clarity on, how do you get them to hands-on? I think this is the platform for that. So just the way Sumala took us through this whole journey, if there's anyone who would like to ask her something, it could be any concept. Please be free.
See, like when somebody was talking about fractions, and when we talk about mixed fraction, we immediately tell, okay, mixed to improper, you do this times this plus this divided by this. Why? And can we just tell them or ask them why? Or probably we say, okay, a to the power minus 1 is equal to 1 over a. And then if they ask us why, we say that, okay, it is because the law says so. What law and where did this law come from? These are questions we need to identify, we need to reflect on, and we need to. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, I just want to ask one question. Ki how to start the chapter ratio and proportion?
Where do we actually use ratio and proportion the most?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking a counter question. Where do we, as in our daily lives, where do we use ratio proportion most? Let's go and ask.
Generally, in the division, if you have to distribute 5 toffees to, if you have to give 4 toffees to 2 students.
Yeah, and Bindi ma'am tells cooking, Priyanka ma'am tells cooking, kitchen. That's exactly where ratio and proportion comes from, right? And that's exactly a lot of hands-on activities can be done there. And, whether it is ratio or proportions, whether it is variations, indirect and direct variations, a lot of, things can be done. And not, we can come to quantities later. We can start with time and the emotion that is coming in. You have to wait in a long queue for 5 hours. Think about the kind of agitation that goes on in your mind. Your flight gets delayed for 2 hours and then to 5 hours, those kind of things. And then you come to variations, you come to ratio and proportion. You come to direct and indirect. There are a lot of stories that you can use, and the best one is to use real life context, especially
Yeah.
children. And if your children, what kind of strata they are coming from, what kind of region they are coming from, and best to pick an example that suits that world, social world that they come from. So there are a lot of things that can be done in ratio, proportion, fractions, and all of these. So we can definitely look at those.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So Sumala, quick question before we wind up. I have a question. So if you could just in brief, okay, share the whole progression on how any chapter could be introduced. If you could just give the teachers a little bit of an understanding on how any chapter could be introduced. How is one supposed to be looking at it? It could be any chapter in mathematics. So one thing what I picked up from the session was where do children see a relationship with that concept in their daily life? So how do we then progress from there on? So if you could just give us one or two quick tips, that would be really helpful for teachers. What is it that they really need to look at?
See, the very first thing is to establish the hook. And that hook can be a story, it can be a real life thing. And it can be, we have to really be very mindful about the pace. And every teacher, they would talk about we have to cover the syllabus, not realizing that syllabus is not to be covered, it has to be uncovered. And this is something I keep reiterating from time to time. And syllabus cover karne wala comes only in grade 10 or 12. Before that, we should play around with the syllabus. So if we are giving the number sense of 10, let's limit to number sense of 10 and not introduce anything beyond 10. So 10 ke saath aap addition karo, 10 ke saath subtraction, you do multiplication division with only 10. Let's not go beyond 10. So that concept of 10 gets, we talk about place value. And then we talk about this number, some teachers who've been with me, they will resonate with it. So for example, 1697. And if I quickly ask how many hundreds are there, and okay, let's test 1697. How many hundreds are there? Give me the answer. And I'm not going to give you any right or wrong or a star or a cookie about it. So how many hundreds? Okay. 1697.
1600s are there.
Okay. And go back to your children, and you would be the children in your class. You ask them how many tens are there. 1697. What will your children say? What will be your students say? How many tens are there in 1697?
160 tens.
160 tens. Okay, think 1697 is the number that I'm giving. Okay, one person is telling 160 tens.
Sorry, ma'am.
Okay, there would be some who, okay, there would be, okay, they may say 600s, they may say 9 tens. Absolutely correct. Okay, now see, this is something that I'm asking you without context. Okay, now let me change this. We all went through demonetization, haven't we? Right. And if we have gone through demonetization, suddenly 1,000 rupee notes were all debunked. And I go with 4,000 rupee notes. And the bank cashier tells me I do not have 100 rupee notes. I will give you only tenors. How many 10 rupee notes will I get? Right. So I have gone with 4,000 rupees and I will come back only with 10 rupee notes. How many? Absolutely. And there comes the, how suddenly everyone will get the right answer that, oh, ma'am, you will come back with 410 rupee notes, right? So I'm just using a context for something as simple as place value. And the moment I take away that context and explain without a concept, the problems will definitely come. So the tip is definitely to use the hook and the pace long enough for the hook to be established. And once that is established, we then gradually recede from there and we keep, we stop using days and coins that I did. I just used colors. Maybe I will give them ample practice to just, I will change the numbers and the numbers will keep changing with difficulty, with rising difficulty level. And gradually we will just wean off the concept altogether. So that is the basic tip. The main thing is use a lot of pause and pace out your lessons. You don't have to hurry.
Super. Thank you so much, Sumala, for this. It was very, very enriching and it was a lovely session. At least I loved all the examples that you gave and how you took us through the whole journey. There is a feedback link there in the chat room. The link isn't opening. Okay. Karthik, could you just help in case somebody's having a difficulty? You will receive your certificates based on the feedback form that you fill in. And yes, Sumala, Jeshi, are you around? If you would like to say a few words.
So, Adhikshita here is one of my students. I see her here and I'm so glad that she's
Arikshita.
here.
Yes,
Adhikshita
Arikshita, would you
Vishnu.
like to say something to your teacher?
I'm so surprised that she's here.
No, ma'am, nothing.
No?
We used to
Enjoy
study
her.
these concepts in 8th grade.
Yeah. Is what ma'am taught you something that you are picking up in your daily life and using it?
Definitely, ma'am, how to break down maths into simpler ways to learn.
Right.
I
Right.
have younger cousins who come and learn from me, so I teach them in a similar way that if you don't relate to your real life, so let's say my brother plays cricket, so I have to give him examples of how he would distribute runs. Let's say if he needs 60 runs to win, how would he distribute that? So in each over, he's making how many runs? Like that, I teach him sometimes. So yeah.
Awesome. So you conceptualize it for them so that they understand it better.
Yes, ma'am.
Amazing. That's really something that you've picked up from your teacher. So super. And yes, over to you, Jayeshi. Thank you, Adhikshita, for sharing. I hope I've got your I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
Super. Yes, over to you, Jayeshi.
Thank you, Viveki, and nothing much, I think. And yeah, thank you, Sumala. Thank you for taking out time. And I think it was what was really important is connecting maths to real life, and that kind of sheds fear in students. Thank you so much. And Sumala, we would love you to come back again because maths, like many teachers said that there is a lot of fear of maths, misconceptions, and we would love you to come back on this platform and do much more of these webinars and workshops on maths. So really
Thank
looking
you so
forward.
much.
Thank you to all
Thank
our
you so much.
participants, and please do fill up the feedback form because you will be getting your certificates based on that. And going ahead, we have the next Saturday, that is 21st and 28th. We have a two-part series on writing, creative writing. We have Padma Shekhar who will be facilitating a two-part series on creative writing. Please do sign up for that. And the details of that workshop is there in the feedback form. Please do indicate if you're interested or not. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody. See you all very soon.
Thank
And
you.
thanks,
Thank you
Viveki,
so
for
much.
taking
Have a
us.
great evening.
Thank
All of
you.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can view this recording on YouTube at any time. Just follow the Adhyayan channel on YouTube. All our COP sessions are there on the YouTube channel. So you can go back and access them whenever you wish to. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome. Have a great evening.